You are all weirdos.
Weird Science Revolution. Weird Science Revolution.
Welcome all you weirdos, secret Louisiana mutants, and everyone who feels a little weird about feeling bad for Fabian Cortez. Boy, that dude got screwed. Prepare yourselves to receive your 137th Weird Dose of X, the mutant member of your Weird Science podcast family. I am your possessed by infinity host, Jason, broadcasting once again from the Wrong Turn studio, perched high atop stately Weird Science Tower. And with me is a man who, on a day with this many books, is probably not all that sad to hear that a few of them are getting canceled. It's my pal Ruben. Hey Ruben, how the heck are you today?
I'm doing great. And yes, a lot of these books needed to be removed from publication.
Yeah, so that's the news. And Tom Brevoort from the very beginning said all these new books are going to go at least 10 issues. And 3 of them are going the minimum. They're going actually 10 issues. The ones that are getting canceled, might as well do the news now. X Factor is getting canceled. X Force is getting canceled. And NYX is getting canceled. So yeah, all at the minimum. So Ruben, do any of these surprise you that, oh my goodness, I can't believe they canceled that book?
I'm kind of surprised that they canceled NYX, but not because I feel like it's particularly strong, just because they seem to be like really committed to pushing Miss Marvel as a mutant. I still don't understand why. Seems like she had her own fan base, independent. I mean, I guess the answer is because they called her a mutant in the MCU, but
yeah, I think that's it.
It doesn't seem to be like an important
to be working
character
here
beat
in the comics.
Yeah,
they're not giving up, because you've seen that the big anniversary of the giant size X-Men is going to be all Kamala Khan all the time. It's a 5-issue. We knew a little bit about this before, but we got some more information this week. It's a 5-issue miniseries, Ruben, and 4 of them are #1 issues. So, and they're mining the greatest hits, all the same stuff we always talk about for X-Men stuff, the Dark Phoenix and Age of Apocalypse, and whatever I think the other one has to do with No More Mutants. So yeah, so they're still going to try to do it. I don't think it's going to work, but boy, they are committed to it. So I think of these 3 books, I think I'm probably most surprised at X-Force getting canned. Mostly because the title X-Force feels like it has more history and more weight to it. Although X-Factor has almost as many titles legacy number-wise. Like X-Force is going to get to exactly number 300. X-Factor is going to get to legacy number 302. And NYX is going to get to like legacy number 17 or something. But yeah, I think of the 3, I think X-Force is probably the title that's going to come back the soonest. Just because there's a lot you can do with X-Force. And this version of Forge's X-Force wasn't all that really similar to what had been done in the past. They'll probably be more of a traditional X-Force, mutant Black Ops team kind of in the future, I'm going to guess.
Yeah, I haven't really liked this X-Force, so I'm okay with it going away. Because it's sort of the, treasure hunt kind of storytelling where it's like, go here, go there. And these villains they're introducing don't seem all that engaging or relevant or groundbreaking. Right. And it just needs to be doing something different.
It is Jeffrey Thorne's trying to bring it all together into, it was La Diabla all along, but it took too long to get to her, and she's just not that compelling to be a strong enough to make us want to keep reading. But we'll talk about that when we get to the actual book. The actual books we're going to talk about today, and Ruben, just to warn you, I have 2 thermoses of tea with me. So if that means anything, we could be in for a rather long show. We'll see what happens.
Well, at some point I'm going to say pause it, and I'll go get my own. We'll have the tea brigade this week.
We will definitely. This is not a straight through kind of podcast. We'll have to do a little. I think they call them a bio break in the middle. Got to recycle some of that tea. But today's books, which we may get to all of these, we'll have to see. We have Mystique #5. That's the finale of that series. Uncanny X-Men #10. Exceptional X-Men #6. Storm #5, X-Force #8 of 10, NYX #8 of 10, X-Factor #7 of 10. That's a lot of books, and that's not even all the X books that came out this week.
Yeah, I know.
We've already dropped Laura Kinney Wolverine. That came out this week. Ultimate Wolverine is over in the Ultimate Universe. Still wasn't very good. Logan still hasn't snapped out of his conditioning, so it's still kind of boring over there.
Did he kill another X-Men character that I would
love
I don't
to
see show up in the Ultimate Universe?
He killed a bunch of goons to prove how strong he is.
Okay.
I think that was it. And then there's this other book called Weapon X-Men that I thought we were going to have to do.
I was interested in that one. The team looks good.
Jim said that he was going to do that over on the regular Marvel podcast, and then he must have just gone and read it because 5 minutes later he said, "Yeah, no, we're not doing that one." So it's not awful. It's a Joe. I always get Joe Kelly, Joe Casey mixed up in my head. Joe Kelly, right? The same guy who's doing the Deaths of Spider-Man.
Okay, it's not Joe Hill, right?
No, it's not Stephen King's son. But the idea here is it's kind of just a not quite as good version of the Wolverine Deadpool team up book that we already have.
No, that's too bad.
And it's Deadpool, betraying Wolverine and making him do things, which again is kind of just like what they're trying to do in that other book. So I don't know, one or the other would be fine. Don't think we need both. But we don't have time to talk about Weapon X-Men, Ruben. Why are you dragging me off topic like that? You know how much I hate to go off topic. So we got to get to the real books. And instead of a deep dive, maybe some of these will get more of a wide dive, if that even means anything, because there's just so many. We'll see what happens. But as always, we're going to start with the Infinity Comic, which is Astonishing X-Men Infinity Comic number 12, The Unbeatable Foe Part 6, which is the end of this story. It's written by Tim Seeley, art by Eduardo Ordino, colors by KJ Diaz, and letters by Clayton Cowles. So yeah, this is the final part of this Black Tom and Juggernaut story, and it makes some kind of surprising sudden shifts.
Yeah, I suddenly took notice and thought, okay, maybe this little 5-issue story was better than I gave it credit for. And the outcome did not play out the way I expected, so...
No, it didn't.
It's pretty good.
It definitely ties more into the other books than I ever expected. So when we left off, Black Tom was this prisoner being transported upstate because he had burned down a bar. There was this big fight. There was this fire on board. And at the very end, he was using his plant powers, which turns out he still has, to have Seaweed drag his buddy Juggernaut down to the briny deep while Captain America was trying to rescue the crew from the burning ship. So the art here at the beginning is pretty cool as we follow Juggernaut all the way down into the mud. And then it shifts to an of-the-mind kind of situation where Juggernaut chats with a past version of himself. The past version when he looked more like his regular standard issue villain. Now, this past version wants him to dump all that heroic X-Men nonsense and go back to, taking what he wants because he can, because he's the Juggernaut. He's tempted, but he ultimately fights off the temptation, literally, by punching his alternate self. So what did you think of that?
Yeah, so as soon as this starts happening, I start rolling my eyes thinking, oh my God, another, let me talk to my past self kind of story. And, It was just irritating, and I was thinking, is he going to just go back to his old ways? Am I wrong? And what's going to happen with this is suddenly we have evil Juggernaut and evil Black Tom going forward.
We had thought that Black Tom, one of the big talks we had was, is Black Tom's Breaking Bad due to internal or external effects, right? Is he just going back to the way he's always been by default, or is somebody doing something to him? And we had pretty much decided, no, this is just Black Tom being Black Tom. And it was about the split between these two pals who had taken different paths. Not so much, actually, because once Juggernaut beats up his alternate self, it breaks the spell not only on him, but on Black Tom, which is kind of surprising. As soon as that Juggernaut gets punched away, the voices in Black Tom's head stop telling him to burn things down, stop telling him to, be a bad guy. And we find out those voices were coming from, of all freaking people, this was a heck of a, I don't want to say page turn, but a scroll, because there's no pages, surprise, Cassandra Nova, on behalf of that shadowy 3K organization that I had, periodically forgotten still exists. So that was really nifty, I thought.
Yes, agreed. And I was, I kind of smirked when it happened, because I was like, yeah, it's been a while since we've seen anything about 3K or Cassandra Nova, but you would
that
imagine
was part
that
of my list
still
of
there.
Things last week. All these things that X-Men still needs to get back to. She was on the list, and here she is. So that's nice.
Yep.
And it also means that I think it was probably a more interesting choice to have Black Tom really decide to go back to being a villain, but this is an okay alternative, and having it be Cassandra Nova and not just be some schmo makes it land more, so that's good. And I don't know why Juggernaut beating her up in his mind made Black Tom also come back to normal, but we'll go with it. That's a comic thing.
Yeah, and also, I mean, if I'm going to be critical of this, I would say I don't believe Juggernaut has got the ability to withstand the psychic influences of an Xavier clone, right? Or like a Xavier twin.
Now, does his whole Juggernaut helmet, I guess the helmet comes off. Maybe that's part of it.
Yeah, they popped the helmet off because normally...
Does he have some ability to resist that? I thought that was part of his
helmet. So the helmet usually
stops
it, yeah. But the vines from Black Tom popped the helmet off, so I was like, okay, makes sense that the psychic influence would work.
So, back on board the ship, we have our little epilogue. Black Tom brings Juggernaut back up on deck, stops fighting Cap, and puts out the fire. He even very, very quickly agrees to go peacefully to answer for his actions, to stand trial. Now, none of the characters know that this was Cassandra Nova doing this. They don't know that it was an outside influence, at least not the way we do. So that trial is probably not going to go so well for Tom. I heard a voice. It told me to burn down the police station. Oh, okay.
Yeah, you're not allowed to do that.
Oh, really? Is that against the rules? No one told me. We even have a nice little bit where Cap apologizes to Juggernaut for doubting him. So Juggernaut gets a little pat on the shoulders there from Captain America himself. That was nice. So yeah, overall enjoyed this story. Strong action, strong characterization, a story arc with beginning, middle, and end. Only kind of criticism is that the Cassandra Nova reveal comes completely out of left field. I don't think anything was hinted at. We knew that he was hearing voices, but I would have liked a little more, would feel more like they were playing fair if I could go back and say, oh, I see, that was where Cassandra Nova was doing something. Here's where I should have been able to tell it was 3K. But no, it just kind of comes out of nowhere. But overall,
it's a psychic character, and I mean, I don't know why I didn't think that the talking matches were somebody projecting their psychic thoughts into Black Tom's head, but it works for me. It's fine.
She's been in the other book, so that is something not entirely out of nowhere. But we haven't seen her use psychic influence on other people either, so it is kind of out of nowhere. But again, still pretty good, especially for an Infinity comic that I'm reading for free with my paid subscription. So I'll give The Unbeatable Foe in its entirety, parts 1 through 6, a nice solid 8 out of 10. Very, very, very much worth reading. How about you, Ruben?
Yeah, I liked it. The end was much stronger than I thought this story was just kind of like cheesecake fun, like Juggernaut and Captain America, but it plays more into the bigger narrative, right? And it's nice to see that 3K is still out there, like, doing whatever bad stuff 3K is doing.
This doesn't tell us much about what they're really doing. We do see at the end that Cassandra Nova has like a list of potential mutants to turn bad again, right? People like Mystique. Is Mystique there? I know Magneto's there. Some other characters who have been bad in the past, but now gone over to the good guy side. So that is, at least in this issue, what her plan is, to try to turn some of those the other way. Why that's good for her? Why that helps 3K? I don't know, but kind of interested.
Yeah.
Okay, that is enough about our Infinity comic. We will move on now to Mystique number 5 of 5, Compromised. Writing and art by Declan Shalvey. Colors by Matt Hollingsworth. Letters by Clayton Cowles. Now, Ruben, there's a lot to talk about in this book, but the most important thing that I want everyone out there to know is, yes, I was right. I was right the whole time. From issue 1. Oh, go away. Okay. Nick Fury Sr. never really did appear in this comic. He was always Mystique from the very beginning. So that was pretty cool. So if I give this an 11 out of 10, maybe you want to knock that down in your mind just because I'm a little bit overly pleased with myself. But
yes.
That's fine.
Yes. It was a good reveal. I actually, I never would have gotten to that, and I would have been like wowed if you hadn't mentioned it like the second issue.
Oh, spoiler, I guess. Sorry about that.
But that was a good call.
It was fun to talk about, right? Because it could have gone the other way at any time, but yeah, it turned out to be true. So really, this issue is just mostly about letting us know what Mystique's plan was. And it turns out what she wanted all along was just to disappear and to delete all of the information on her from S.H.I.E.L.D.'s database. And I thought that was kind of out of nowhere, like I mentioned with the Infinity comic, but when I reread the whole miniseries again on my flight home to Rhode Island last night, I do see that the information angle was hinted at really throughout the series. The very, very first words in issue number 1 were a Destiny narration box that says, information. This is the currency we all trade in. So it was right there from the jump. So that was kind of cool. And in issue 2, another Destiny narration box says she needs more ammunition for her fight. That means more information. So that is there. Now, what she was doing was, in issue 1, she needed Maverick to get access to that protozoa device. And the reveal here, which this is one of the weak parts, I think, is I wanted to know more about protozoa before the very, very end. Because it turns out it was some techno-wizardry that erases things from databases. Super, super convenient.
Yeah, I was curious, how would she know about protozoa? I was also, a little confused about how she knew that S.H.I.E.L.D. was tracking her.
Well, I mean, she's a mutant terrorist who kills people. Of course she's tracking her.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of zero-summed that one just to say, okay, your nation state's over, and you got to think about if she's trying to, secure her safety and future for her and Destiny, she's, I guess, got to get off the police records now that she's out in the general populace again.
The other weak part that goes there, and I guess I'll front load with my criticisms, is that, sure, she can delete everything about her from S.H.I.E.L.D.'s computers, but there are other computers, Ruben. I don't know if you know this, but there's more than one computer. I think this is the same thing we said about in Wolverine, where they were going to delete how to make adamantium from this one computer. Maybe it's just because I've been working in the cloud for years now. I save all my documents up there. If my computer gets blown up, the information doesn't go away, and I think they probably would have a second copy somewhere.
Yeah. AWS doesn't exist in in the MCU.
Guess not. And also, even if the computer forgets her, it's not like the people are going to forget who mutant terrorist Mystique is, especially when she murders to death a whole ton of S.H.I.E.L.D. operatives in the series.
Yeah.
So people are going to know who she is. So it's not like, Mephisto erases Spider-Man's secret identity or what Lex Luthor does for Superman, right? Those are kind of mystical, magical mind things. This is just one computer. We got to go with that. So to move on to issue 2, she needed an Avalanche to get access to Abigail Benson, and I'm still not quite sure what was going on there. But I think she kills Benson because Benson is the agent in charge of tracking Destiny. So if she wants Destiny to hide as well, erase the computer and kill Abigail Benson. Is that what was going on there, you think?
It seems like it. He kind of got or she got kind of a raw deal, right? It's like everyone else, they just delete the data, but for her, it was get some murder in on this person.
Now, that's what I would ask Declan Shalvey if, I was sitting next to him at a pub having some pints. What was the Abigail Benson thing? That was the part that's still kind of shaky. Moving on to the next issue, in issue 3, she needed Fabian Cortez to supercharge her transforming ability well enough so that she could pass through S.H.I.E.L.D's security system to pass as Nick Fury. Now, in that same issue, we also saw the real Nick Fury go through. It's more than just, scan your ID and a retinal scan or something. It was elaborate tests where they took blood and they tested this and they tested that. So that's why she needed Fabian Cortez. I don't think she ever intended to gain the ability to mimic other mutants' powers. I think that was an unanticipated side effect.
I think so, yeah.
Now, then in issue 4, she needed Nick Fury Jr. off the board for a while so that she, you don't want 2 Nick Furies showing up at S.H.I.E.L.D. at the same time. That would be inconvenient. So she had him captured while she went into S.H.I.E.L.D. as Nick Jr., passed through all those security tests, used Protozoa to erase herself on the database, and then set up that bomb, I think mostly to distract everyone at S.H.I.E.L.D. from noticing, hey, something weird is happening in our database. That's also why she ran around yelling, give me Destiny back, when that wasn't really her plan, because that was just to distract S.H.I.E.L.D. Yeah, right. In fact, her plan was to have Destiny captured all along. And this was a cool reveal that I did not anticipate. The S.H.I.E.L.D. agent who shot Destiny and wounded her in issue 1, at the end of issue 1, that was Mystique. That was a very cool reveal, I thought. I did not anticipate that one.
Yeah, I didn't think that at all. And I liked the explanation for that of this is a person, this is a weakness for me, right? Get them out of the way while I do this crazy stuff.
Get her off the board, put her someplace safe. S.H.I.E.L.D's not going to kill Destiny. They don't have any crimes on her, really, at least not right now. And the idea that, I would shoot her because I know where to shoot her so not to kill her, I guess that's Mystique being really hardcore, right? She has her goal in mind, and she'll even shoot Destiny to get to her goal. That's pretty hardcore, but I guess I'm with it. So at the end here, she releases Nick Jr. from custody so he can go back to S.H.I.E.L.D., and he has to act like nothing's wrong. Because if he lets on that the Nick Jr. who was there earlier was Mystique, he'll never be trusted by S.H.I.E.L.D. again. His career's over. And that's been his whole arc. At the start, we're shown that he's bored and he's ambitious. He wants to get back from behind a desk, back out into the field, back to being a man of action, like his dad, which is why he's so susceptible to his dad, actually Mystique, giving him this more active mission of tracking Mystique. So, Nick Jr.'s loose now. He arranges the prisoner swap. He'll give Destiny back to Mystique, and in return, he gets to bring Fabian Cortez to S.H.I.E.L.D., and Cortez gets totally screwed here. Right? By all appearances, he had completely turned over a new leaf.
Yeah, he was just trying to do some humanitarian work in Madripoor, right?
Like running a clinic for poor hospital. Sick kids. Yeah. Was curing like leukemia or something in a sick kid. I forget what it was exactly, but something bad.
Yeah.
Trying to be good, right? He had turned over a new leaf in Way of X by Cy Spurrier. But even in that book, he was still kind of a jerk, right? We knew he was trying to be better, but didn't really like him. Here, I honestly feel bad for Fabian Cortez, and that may be Declan Shalvey's greatest achievement here.
Yeah.
Is making Fabian Cortez a sympathetic character, because he was trying to do good. He gets chased by the Sentinels, who pop in out of nowhere. He thinks he sees Magneto. He gets kidnapped, tossed into the trunk of a car, used for his power by Mystique, and now he's traded back to S.H.I.E.L.D., who are going to do God knows what with him, because they think that he's part of, some sort of mutant crime ring. Poor guy.
I still don't understand what Mystique was doing when she was reaching into the car trunk, right? And he was like, oh God, no.
It was just, forcing him to do his thing. I don't know exactly what it was either. It would have been nice to know, but yeah, it looked like she was just leaning in and biting him or something, which that was one oddly drawn panel.
Yeah, I like the biting idea. Mm-hmm. She's just being mean.
So the final big reveal in this issue is just how much of a toll all this Fabian Cortez supercharging has taken on Mystique. And I like this because we don't want Mystique to be super powerful all the time. That would be, just too much.
Yeah.
And it's also been set up. Every time she's gotten this extra charge, she's kind of doubled over like she was punched in the gut. On the final page, though, she looks like freaking Mumra from Thundercats. She looks rough. And presumably she'll recover, but probably is going to take a while. And I think that's a good ending. We don't want her to be super OP without consequences. And it's okay if she and Destiny just kind of go away for a while. That's what she wants. That's the whole point. So she's won, although at a really heavy price, probably temporary to her own physical body. And Nick Jr., the other protagonist in this series, he's kind of won too, also at a price. He sees from the scan of the fake Nick Jr. that Mystique's going to suffer this physical price, so he gives that information to S.H.I.E.L.D., Maria Hill, and for that, he's back in her good graces, and he gets sent back out to the field. But the price is now he's dirty. He's lying about what happened to him, and he's covering up for mutant terrorist murderer Mystique. That can't ever come out, or he's ruined. Now, I have never been a big Nick Fury Jr. fan. He's always been kind of shoehorned into continuity to match the movies. He just didn't really seem to have a purpose. To me, this makes him like 10 times more interesting than he ever was before. Gives him a lot more depth.
Yeah, he's like not the infallible Nick Fury. He's got like some issues. And
for sure.
I would love to see people continue with this story of like him trying to basically keep this covered up, right? You could see him do some other dirty stuff.
Whether it's, maybe Declan Shalvey does a Nick Fury Jr. miniseries in a year, or I hope we don't see Nick Jr. again and people just forget this happens, because that would be boring.
Or you could even have a Nick versus Nick book, right? I'd read that. Dad investigating his son for some reason. That
could be cool. Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I've had the criticisms that, deleting them from a database, does it really mean they're forgotten? Protozoa being kind of Deus Ex Machina, not really hinted at what it really is. But beyond those minor things, I think it was a really good final issue. I'm on record as typically not liking endings, but this was a strong ending for a really terrific miniseries.
Yeah, no, this Declan Shelby's on my list now of people I want to read more X-Men comics from. He did a good job. And what I really like about this one is, and what I will not like about some of the other books we review this week, is you can easily just take details from this and see how it's going to play into like great future stories.
Well, for sure. And that's one of the things we love about comics is mentally kind of writing the beginnings of all these other stories. Oh, they could do this, they could do this, they could do that. And it's so many possibilities here. I also love that this series does fit in with current continuity, right? This can be happening right now, very closely with Sentinels, obviously. But also it makes sense that I know everybody went through a lot on Krakoa, but Mystique and Destiny went through more than most. So you can see why they really would want to disappear for a while. But also, you don't need to know any of that to read and enjoy this as its own self-contained story. So it works both ways, which is fantastic in these shared universe superhero stories. It's nice that you can fit into continuity, but it also works on its own.
And I gotta say, these are some of the more cool villains that are in the X-Men universe in my mind. So it's nice to see that, the toys aren't broken. As long as Mystique gets better over a period of time, right? You assume that she will. But
she'll be back, yeah.
Yeah,
whether
okay,
there's a
being
story
away
where she gets back or whether she just pops back up and say, yeah, I got better.
But I really like to see this pairing, right? It's always fun to see they're I guess a committed couple, but they their behavior towards each other is weird, right? Like the fact that Destiny kind of knew that Mystique was going to almost kill herself doing all this, and she just like, whatever.
Yeah, there's certainly an edge to it, for sure.
Yeah.
And also, they were, part of Krakoa, part of, the rulers of Krakoa. You could call them part of the good guys, whatever that meant on Krakoa, but they didn't really reform. They just were acting differently in different circumstances. They're still themselves, and they're still themselves now, so it's not like Black Tom, we were talking about in the Infinity comic, kind of a shallower, oh, he was good, now is he going bad again? No, they're still themselves, just in a different world, so that's really cool too. And so far, Mystique, for me, has been the best part of the post-Krakoan era. Sentinels ends next week, and I hope it ends as well as Mystique did, and if it does, that'll challenge for the title. But for right now, I'm going to give Mystique number 5 of 5. Oh, call it a 9.3 out of 10. Really good stuff.
You loved it.
highest score I've given in a long time.
Yeah, I was a little more grumpy when I first read it, but talking about it and reflecting on it, reading it again, I did enjoy it a lot. So we have maybe 8.8.
8.8.
This
is
real
good.
Really good. Yeah, I like you said, I really do appreciate that it'd be cool as a standalone series if you just like Mystique, and it's great in the current timeline as well. So yeah, maybe I'll just go up to 9, round it up. It was really good.
Okay. Yeah, and again, I'm giving it some bonus points because I like being right. Is that going to stick? Here we go. And also, I'm giving it some bonus points just for sticking the landing on the whole series, right? Because this whole series really hinges on ending well, and it does. So it kind of collects some extra bonus credit for making
she gets
the
a bonus
first 4
too,
issues
that like you were
so
on the Nick Fury trail, right? But neither of us had any idea that the guard that shot Destiny was Mystique. So
yeah, so
at least
a nice
one
balance of
hidden
mysteries we could solve and ones that were still surprises at the end. Very good stuff. Okay, moving on from Mystique number 5 to Uncanny X-Men number 10, Legacy number 710. Written by Gail Simone, art by Andre Bresson, colors by Matthew Wilson, and letters by Clayton Cowles. So the editorial note on the credits page says, the events of this story take place prior to Sentinels number 4. Just kind of weird. My working theory had been that all of Sentinels was taking place sometime like before maybe Uncanny even got started. But whoops, that's not right. I don't even have a sounder for I was wrong, but you can mentally play that in your head. So is this because Larry Trask was getting into trouble in Sentinels number 4? Or is it because the Wolfpack Sentinels were more just successful in Sentinels number 4? Is that why we have this editorial note, you think?
I don't know. I mean, I didn't, if that's the reason, I didn't really need it because we were already told that like there were different, models of these Wolfpack Sentinels, and like this specific little subgroup just wasn't as effective. Yeah. It had some issues, right? So yeah, I don't know. I think it's really weird, the idea that this takes place before Sentinels, because then it would mean that the Sentinels team was there during the raiding of Grey Mulkin, but they weren't deployed. like, why, right? You'd think that they would be right there.
Well, they came in at the end. The very end, they did come in. So they were there. Well, whatever it is, when we left off last time, our teen outliers were shopping at a mall when they were savagely attacked by those Wolfpack Sentinels. And it looked like our boy Deathdream was dead. Now, Ruben, as I recall, you and I weren't too worried about our boy Deathdream.
Not at all.
Because as far as we can tell, one part of his kind of not super well-defined shtick is that he dies and comes right back to life. Turns out we should have been even less worried because he wasn't even actually dead.
Yeah. I kind of liked, it kind of annoyed me when they did that. Because I was like, didn't you already tell us that he know, couldn't be killed, that he kind of had a resurrection power?
So to have this big, like, ER medical scene with him.
Yes.
Maybe do it with a different character and it would have been more dramatic.
Better. Yeah.
But we start off with a little character interaction scene back at Haven House. No one here knows that the kids are in any trouble, so everything here is still calm. Nightcrawler has been asked to do some chores, so he's going to paint the roof of a barn. And Chelsea, the daughter of the couple who own the house, she's going to help him out. She's super well-raised, maybe even a little too polite. She insists on calling Kurt Mr. Nightcrawler, which is very cute. I think I'm going to call him that from now on until I get sick of it. And she hates the brimstone smell of his bamfing, which is unfortunate because Kurt's not going to use a ladder. Why would he use a ladder? He's going to bamf himself up and down to the roof to bring up his supplies. Except a cat named Lucifer, never a good sign, Lucifer knocks the paint off of the roof, and Chelsea, the little girl, she manifests a protective dome over herself and Mr. Nightcrawler. So it seems that little Chelsea is a mutant. And what do we think of that?
It's all right. It's sort of like, I don't know.
It's weird that she doesn't want her dad to know, because he's been presented as, kind of a perfect person so far.
I guess I'm kind of a little like not into this so much because we already have a lot of, this whole group of new mutants and
new young teenage mutants, especially.
Yeah, that you're getting to know. And I mean, just for the storytelling purposes, like, I don't think I need to learn another mutant. Although, as a just random shooting from the hip comment, maybe she's the foreseen one that will destroy everyone.
Oh, wow, that would be a twist.
Yeah.
We know something weird has been going on at Haven House because the bad guys couldn't see, the teens here. So something's up. Maybe that's connected with her being a mutant.
And by the way, she casts a dome over everything.
She wants her X-Men name to be Dome. So it's cute that she thought about that. So if that's not enough, the scene continues with a woman bringing Kurt her perfectly prepared, I'm going to try to say this German name, Apfelkuchen. Sorry to Niels if I screw that up, but it means, it's not a euphemism, it means apple cake.
It looks delicious, I'll say that.
It does indeed.
I need to get me a recipe. Niels, hook me up, man.
So Kurt saved this woman's daughter, Lena's the daughter, from that runaway truck in issue 6. And this mom is also that lady who gave the cop a hard time afterwards, giving Kurt some time to escape. So she heard Mr. Nightcrawler's accent back then, and so she looked up how to bake some German specialties. Lots of them. They list a whole bunch of them here. Plus, she knitted him a scarf and a hat. She is super, super grateful, which is nice. It's nice to have a scene between mutants and humans that isn't all, hatred and fear. It's good stuff.
Yeah, no, I really like this scene. It was touching. And I thought kind of cool to see somebody actually grateful for somebody's having their kids saved, right? And there's we'll get to Exceptional a little bit later, but, that whole story is about a mutant who wants to have a normal life. And here we see, I guess Kurt being lured by some of that as well, right? He kind of really digs this. And
yeah, he talks about in the narration how, he'd be happy just hanging out here at the farm and putting the whole X-Men superhero life behind him. So he's not telling Rogue this out loud because she's still, calling herself the X-Men, but he's kind of feeling like going away for a while. Now, we know that, I guess, Wolverine's in the past. Yeah, Wolverine is definitely in the past from this. So whatever he did with Wolverine and the Adamantine and Kid Wendigo, he's also been through some other stuff.
Yeah.
Now, I've seen some speculation. I think it was on Reddit. Yes, I did click through Reddit for a while this week. Some speculation that this lady is going to end up being his next, love interest, which could happen, but I'm fine with her just being a grateful mom. I think that's very realistic, and I think that's all she needs to be. She could be more, but I'm fine with her being just that.
Yeah, I was more into him with, Silver Sable, so I'd rather keep that, but I know.
But again, if he's
floats around.
If he's thinking of leaving the superhero life behind and settling down,
maybe
that also could be reflected in his choice of love interest, right?
Yeah.
Silver Sable's very much of that world that he doesn't want to be a part of. So this lady with some cute kids, that could work. But we'll see. Okay, enough happiness. Time for some gore. Back to the mall. Death Dream is on the ground, badly injured, not breathing, but he does have a weak pulse. So Jitter uses her powers to become a combat medic for 1 minute. Pretty cool use of her powers. She sends Ransom off to go to a tattoo parlor for a needle to treat Death Dream's tension pneumothorax. Essentially, air has gotten into Death Dream's chest, making it impossible for his lungs to expand so he can breathe. The needle's supposed to give that a way to escape. I think I saw that on ER. That's on all the medical shows. I don't really watch the medical shows. My wife does, so it's always on in the background.
Yeah.
And this sounds familiar. So by the time Ransom gets back with the needle, Jitter's minute is up, but I guess she kind of remembers some of what she had learned in that minute.
Yeah.
It's a little hazy, but she does the procedure. It works, is the short version.
Yeah. I like this character in the power. It's kind of cool. It's a little fun to guess like what she's going to use for each situation. And then I like the idea that it's like, not a perfect fix to everything.
Maybe it's like the Flash where he can read things super fast, but then the knowledge fades quickly afterwards.
Yeah.
That's
I just thought of it also just, I could read a medical book on how to do this procedure, but I don't have the experience or skill, right? I'd be pretty dang cautious, not cautious, but worried, about doing it right or wrong.
For sure.
So I feel like, while she was in the power, maybe she figures everything out and she could, has complete confidence that she could do it the right way. And then suddenly she's back to being just regular person. So she knows what she needs to do, but she's expecting that needle to break, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I'd like a little more clarity on her powers, but this was a pretty cool use for them. So afterwards, as soon as this treatment happens, Death Dream is immediately ready to stand up, start walking around again, which, again, I'm no ER doctor, but I would think that he'd still be in pretty rough shape after this thing. I don't know if this is the kind of thing that once you let the air out, he's fine. Does he have some sort of healing factor going along with his anti-death powers?
Yeah.
Maybe. Again, kind of unclear. So while this medical drama is playing out, the action scenes continue as well. Calico's very scared, especially for her horse, Ember, but she does manage to lead the Wolfpack Sentinels away and keep them busy for a while. But then when the Wolfpack seems to have the upper hand, and it looks like it might be sayonara for a little rich girl, Ransom pops in for the save. And yeah, this action scene plays out well enough. It's some cool X-Men action. Good to see the kids using their abilities. Now, Ransom has Ember kick him in the chest as a way of powering up his black hole heart. So I guess it's kind of like Sebastian Shaw, where he absorbs the energy and that makes him strong again. He doesn't, something like that. Again, all these powers
it needs to be clarified a little
hazy.
Bit more, especially if he's going to be Sunspot's younger brother. I mean, I would expect that
cousin,
this is a character, or cousin, is that what it is? Okay.
I think so.
Yeah. But I would still expect him to be around. You're not going to get rid of it to Costa once they've been introduced. So I need more clarity as to what his powers are. But that being said, I mean, he's clearly the hero, right? And I'm starting to root for him. He's one of my favorites of these characters. Yeah, and his relationship with Logan is pretty cool, right? Where a little later, I think he tells Logan to stop calling him a kid.
They're both kind of cranky bastards, and they're both kind of right for each other in that sense. So that works for sure. We are at issue 10, and we're still saying, all these powers need to be kind of clarified. So it's kind of late, but there's been other stuff going on. So what happens again at the end? So Wolverine and his claws show up. They're pretty useful. Jubilee uses some sparkly lights that I don't think are quite as useful as Wolverine's claws, but she's there too. Kurt saw the news broadcast back at Haven House, so he bamfs in to rescue a random shopper from a damaged Wolfpack Sentinel. And at the end, Death Dream realizes what I was harping on last issue, that these Sentinels do have an organic component. So once again, I'm going to say I don't really understand his powers, but he can tell that the poor dogs inside the machinery don't want to do this anymore. And so Death Dream and his ghost buddies are able to, quote, set them free. So is he now able to defeat any Wolfpack Sentinel with no trouble at all? Is that what he's discovered?
It would seem to be the case, unless in the future we just say, they've got shielding against his power, which is probably what they'll do.
Now, and can he kill anybody or anything, or only people who kind of don't want to be alive anymore, or animals who don't want to be alive anymore?
Yeah, that's a good question, because otherwise he's pretty formidable.
He's pretty OP, yeah. I have to see. Once again, these powers are a little bit vague. And also, we still don't know how these kids met each other. We don't know how they knew to come to Haven House. We don't know how they got to Haven House. We knew they were all being chased by the Hag, but still, somebody should sit down with them. There should have been a scene at some point where it said, hey, how do you crazy kids all meet each other anyway? Because they're from all over the freaking world, and yet now they're together. I want to know that. All right, back at Grey Malkin Prison, we have warden/podcaster Corinna Ellis, and she's royally PO'd at Trask and his tech team for sending untested killer robo-puppies into a freaking shopping mall. Management practices there at Grey Malkin Prison, not the best. Plus, the kids defeated the killer robo-puppies, and now everybody sees the kids as heroes, which is not what the warden/podcaster of a mutant prison really wants to happen. So she's unhappy. And finally, at a location described only as, quote, elsewhere, we see Rogue and Gambit out on a date night. They went to ballet, and now Rogue is all horned up, wants to go home, or at least somewhere private. I would not want to be sleeping on the other side of a wall from these two. You'd never get any sleep. But while the happy couple walk off to find a love hotel, we see that they are not alone. All we see of their stealthy pursuer is a clawed reptilian right hand. So clearly this is Killer Croc, right? Is that who this is? That's who I thought of. I know it's a whole other comic book company,
idea.
But...
I want to talk too about this idea. She's just like touching Gambit with her ungloved hand. So I guess she hasn't...
It's been established that she can control it now. I forget exactly when or where, but she can do the power and memory, suck when she wants to, but she can also just touch somebody like a person. Very handy for her. So yeah, this other creature, it also makes me think of that little kid who thought she was a mutant in X-Men, tested as not being a mutant, and then when she went to sleep, we see her hand turn all reptile-like.
Oh, that's actually probably who it is. That's a good shout.
If it is, that would be a heck of a connection. I don't know why that little kid would, whoever this is really very much anti-Gambit. Seems they have a history.
Yeah.
So
Didn't that kid get taken by 3K or something? Maybe not.
I don't think so.
Maybe she just went back to sleep.
The last time we saw her was being sleeping.
Okay.
Because she was rescued, right? Because that's when the X-Men team didn't tell people what they were doing, but saved
the
kid.
she thought she was a mutant, and she went there, and then
right.
But
the last thing we saw was her.
They took her back to her parents'
turning
house,
into little baby Killer Croc.
Yeah,
so I don't think it's her, but that's what it made me think of.
Yeah.
So I would think that this is set up for the next arc, but the next actual arc is the X-Manhunt crossover, which kicks off in Uncanny number 11 in just 2 weeks. So
maybe it's Sauron. That's another thought.
Okay.
Like this could be a stylized drawing of him. He's kind of a reptilian, right? Pterodactyl guy.
Either this is setting up something for post X-Manhunt, which is probably likely.
Yeah, that's my
guess. Or is this character part of X-Manhunt, which seems less likely to me, but who knows? We'll find out soon. Okay, so this was a pretty decent issue. Nice to see the kids working together, using their powers, even though those powers are still not as well defined as we'd like them to be. I really like the character stuff up front with Mr. Nightcrawler, with him and the kid, him and the mom. I hope he enjoys his German-style baked goods. They looked yummy. We talked about Andre Bresson's art last time we did Uncanny, because he's been on for these past 2 issues, and I think I enjoyed it more this issue than last issue. Maybe it was just now I'm more used to it, where last time it was more of a shock. Very different
I thought it was
slick
good.
Action stuff. Right?
I thought the action stuff was very dynamic. His drawings were pretty cool. The fight scenes were good. Yeah,
they're more gritty. I don't want to say realistic because we have mutants fighting robotic cyber dogs. But they weren't slick. They weren't, as stylized. They weren't happy, shiny. It was, the hits looked painful. It looked like something really tough was going on. So that was pretty good. I don't know that I'd want to see him on the main artist for a book like Uncanny, but I'm certainly happy to see him popping in now and then to give us a different look. So yeah, not the best thing ever. We had our little criticisms, our little questions, but I'm still going to give Uncanny number 10. I'll call it a 7.8 out of 10. How about you, Ruben?
Nice. Yeah. I liked it in that range. I was going to say it's 7.5, but it's kind of annoying that I'm constantly under you in scores. I'm not negative,
I had written down 7.5. I just talked myself up to 7.8 in the course of this podcast.
Yeah. I thought it was a little weird that Jubilee was hitting on that police officer when they were showing up to the mall. I was like, you got to get your priorities straight.
And I think somebody asked Gail Simone about that on Twitter or one of the Must be Twitter. I think it's what she's on. And she said, oh, yeah, well, she's just kind of grateful for him letting, or maybe like it worked. That's how they got through. Also kind of weird that Wolverine would kind of ask permission of the cop to go to join the fight. But
yeah, you kind of think he just like knocked that baton out of the guy's hand and just go forward. But
it was a funny little moment, but
maybe he's thinking like he doesn't need to get on the bad side of the law at this point.
It's fine. It didn't bother me. It was just an odd little moment. But that was Uncanny number 10. Moving even further on, our next book is Exceptional X-Men number 6. Written by Eve L. Ewing, art by Carmen Carnero, colors by Nolan Woodard, letters by Travis Lanham. So, Ruben, what have we been begging, pleading for this book to have for several issues now?
A villain. Conflict, anything.
A bad guy. Somebody for them to fight against. Because I think we're getting there. Because I don't know about you, Ruben, but I don't entirely trust this tech CEO guy who's really into genetics and has the initials SX. I think he might not be totally on the up and up. I'm a suspicious guy, I guess. Okay, let's not even pretend. We know this guy is Nathaniel Essex, better known as Mr. Sinister. They don't know that. Maybe some of them should know that. I think maybe Kitty should be a little extra suspicious about this guy who wants all this mutant DNA. She's seen this before. Emma should probably know what's going on. She's seen this before.
Well, Kitty's not really in her right mind right now, so I can forgive her, but you'd think Emma would be a little more alert. She has a lot of dealings with Nathaniel.
The kids can be excused. They don't know anything. They're just little kids. So, so this issue is pointing the book in a better direction. Does start off pretty slow. We have this generic pseudo danger room scenario, which at least serves the purpose of demonstrating the X-teens are progressing in their mutant fight club lessons.
Yeah.
Then there's a weird bit where they talk about not wanting to be financially dependent on Emma. Okay concept. The dialogue here, I just found it made my shoulders kind of cringe and my back go, yuck. I just don't like the way these kids are written.
Yeah.
Maybe I just don't like teenagers. I don't know. That could be.
Well, I like the ones better in Uncanny. They're more interesting. Axo is like, his power is at least kind of cool, but I was initially kind of into Bronze, but she's kind of stupid at this point. And Melee, I just don't really know what Melee does. I mean, I get that she has like the phasing powers, but I don't, character-wise, like I don't know what she adds to the group, right?
Yeah, and they're definitely, Eve Ewing's writing these, trying to write them more realistic, or at least more of a certain kind of what she thinks teenagers are like. She's giving them a spin that's different from your standard superhero comic, which in theory is good, but this dialogue is just not what I want to see in a comic book. It just doesn't work for me.
I mean, even the fight scene, it confuses me. Like, Bronze just goes Bronze and blocks ice, but like, how is that a good defense? I guess it doesn't hurt her when she's in Bronze form or something.
I suppose. And the phasing thing, well, that can, that can work for kind of anything, but they don't really have a lot of offense here. So these kids need to get their own source of money now since they don't want to sponge off Emma. And super conveniently, Kitty's roommate Pretty just happens to have 3 teen internships available at the consulting firm she works for. Now, is Pretty being set up to have a turn somewhere that she's going to be revealed to be something nefarious? Or is she really just this convenient because she's Kitty's roommate, whose family owns that building? The family also owns this warehouse space they're using for their little mutant clubhouse. And now she says, my consulting firm. Does she own the consulting firm or does she just work at this consulting firm? Because she's able to hire on these teens without asking anybody, apparently.
Yeah, I assume the reveal is that she's some sort of Nathaniel Essex clone or dupe or stooge or whatever.
I hope so.
Because otherwise she's kind of a bad pretty character. Ridiculous, yeah.
So we'll see what goes on with her. So if the reveal does come to be that she has something sinister, so to speak, going on, I'll retroactively like her better.
I mean, the one bit I appreciated was when Emma was like, yeah, I got all this money, you can just do whatever. And everyone's like, yeah, we don't want to be beholden to your money. That part was good. I thought that was a good character beat moment. But
the concept I'm totally with, just the way they talked about it, I don't like.
Yeah. And the consulting firm, everything is way too convenient, unless, like you say, this is all just a scheme, that this works out. But otherwise, it's almost X Factor bad as far as just stuff happens, right?
Yeah, so they show up at the consulting firm. They all bring their coffees, or I don't know, Bronze might have some sort of a smoothie. I don't know what she has. But yeah, I think like you pointed out on Slack, and folks, why aren't you on Slack? Good stuff happens there. Join the Patreon. They're in the elevator, and none of them takes any action, not even to push the dang elevator button. Like it's like the book doesn't want to move forward. Trying so hard not to go anywhere, literally, right there on the page.
Yes, no, that 3-panel thing, I was like, this is the entire series encapsulated in a 3-panel spread.
That was a good call. I didn't even notice that the first time.
No one pressed the button. I thought you did.
You are so right.
It was like, y'all are killing me. Yes, this is killing me as well, viewing.
So they finally show up, and they think they're there for an interview, but they're thrown right into a client-facing meeting with a big client. Right, the Sheldon Xenos guy who's running this big app everybody's talking about, he's hiring this consulting firm, and Pretty just throws them in. It's just her and these kids didn't tell them what the meeting was going to be. So yeah, I think if this turns out to be her working for Sinister, that's the only way it makes sense.
Yes, because you would never do this running a business. You would never put junior people in charge of a major account, and you would never put anybody like in a meeting without prepping them for it. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. I don't know why the kids are like, I mean, they're a little freaked out by it, but it's
not enough.
Yeah.
They very quickly go into full out lying mode, and they're very good at it, pretending that they're tech consultant people. And they talk about, how cutting edge of consumer trends, preparing a pitch. We want to hear what your goals are. They should not be this good at that.
Even this business, you go in and it's just like a bunch of teenagers hanging out, right? They're playing video games, table tennis.
It looks like a tech firm circa like 10 years ago during that, early 2000s tech boom, because there's a ping pong table, there's probably foosball over somewhere. It looks like that era, which if it's on purpose satirizing that era and this is really a fake consulting firm, again, I will take back my criticism if it turns out to be bad on purpose. Which it really better be at this point, or I'm going to be so disappointed. I kind of like the kids a little bit less because of how good they are at lying here. I think I want these characters supposed to be sympathetic, but they shouldn't be this good at being dishonest. So at least make Trista bronze, right? She's the youngest one. She should be the one who's kind of flustered and messes up. Just throw something in to show that, something. They're surprised by this. But Xenos buys it, or pretends to buy it, if it's maybe his whole setup. He also really wins over Alejandro, Axo, who is the only one on this team who can't pass to be a regular human. So the rest of this is really going to be mostly about him. He's the star of this whole issue. Next day, Alejandro meets Xenos in the park for a one-on-one meeting, and then he uses his empathy powers to foil an attempted mugging. So naturally, my initial thought here is that the mugging was staged by Mr. Sinister, but then when the empathy powers kick in, either these people are again shielded from the powers and are really good actors, or they're really legit thieves. Which way do you think that goes?
I think we see later that he hired them, right? The Xenos hired them.
Oh, is that who? Are those the same people at the end?
Yep.
Oh,
yeah, he's basically.
I didn't pick up they were the same people. I was wondering if those.
You were so bored by the issue, you didn't see that. Yeah, he's basically like paying them for doing his like staging.
Okay,
which all part
I didn't
of his,
recognize they were the same characters.
Grooming to capture Axo's
that's better.
trust.
I like that a lot better. Okay.
Yeah. My question about Xenos is really: is this Essex? Is this Nathaniel Essex? And then, if so, like he just has these horns growing out of his head. I mean, I know he's the geneticist guy, but
we've seen him make so many different versions of himself. So many clones. I'm perfectly fine for making a clone that has ram's horns. He looks like one of the main characters from Saga.
Yeah. But you think this is Essex then, like with horns?
Absolutely.
A clone, okay. So people just don't, did anyone take a picture of him?
Because where
I'm going with this is
at
some point somebody must have seen him and been like, that's not Xenos, that's fucking Nathaniel Essex, right? Like, you've had so many issues with him, especially Emma, right? Like but I don't
think there is a Xenos. I think Xenos is just is what Nathaniel Essex is calling himself now. So I don't think there's another one out there kidnapped.
Well, I guess nobody's taken a picture of him, and none of the people that know Nathaniel have seen him just yet. But
yeah, again, I think we just have to accept that for comic books. You'd think that, again, your Kitty, your Emma, somebody else, because he's not hiding. He's apparently all over the news. Someone should have said, hey, that guy looks familiar.
Yeah, and his app is like a big deal,
supervillain?
right? Everyone's using his app now, and I work in the tech industry, like, who all these CEOs are, right? Their pictures are everywhere. So, like, wouldn't somebody have seen his face and be like, holy crap, Sinister's
I think we have to accept,
company?
for comic book reasons, that he can't be drawn totally different from Mr. Sinister, because we, the readers, have to figure out who he is. So I think we have to accept that in the world, no one can tell, but outside of the world, we can tell. I think that's what we got to go with. So let's see. The next day, I think the thing about him is, I think he's intentionally making himself look different from a human being, because I think he's trying to win over Axo on purpose. I don't know what his goal is with Axo.
Yeah, he's like trying to do the whole like mutants who don't look like humans, who can't really hide that they're mutants. The ones who can pass,
the one who can't pass.
We've seen have a different experience in the world. Yeah.
Which is a very reasonable theme. We've seen it a lot before. I think we saw it in New Mutants during Krakoa with the little kids. Some of the kids can pass for people. Some are, regular humans. Some of the kids can't. I think the No Girl story was part of that storyline where they had the Shadow King. So it's not a bad theme, but it's also nothing new or shocking. We've seen it before. So it really has all to do with how well it's going to be pulled off. Which,
so I kind of dig this, the scene where the muggers attack and then Axo uses his power to kind of have the muggers. It's almost like a psychic power in a way, right? He sort of rewrites their minds, but I think he really kind of affects their emotions,
their empathy.
Maybe.
He brings their emotions to the surface, and I guess having this couple, we know it's not really happening, but in theory, having this couple actually say out loud what they're feeling makes them, reform and fix their relationship. Good enough. Especially, I like it so much better now that I see they're the same characters at the end. That makes the issue better. And I like the idea that Axo is convinced by Xenos, but I think he's won over a little too quickly. I'd like him to have a little bit of resistance and then be won over. It's just a little bit too easy, but I'm okay with the idea of it.
Yeah.
Then at the end, we do see, you're correct, that this couple was fake. They get paid by Xenos. And there's a little bit of a rift between Axo and the rest of his team, because they're all suspicious of Xenos for, again, the criticisms they air are not wrong, but again, the dialogue to me feels slightly too pat.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's all right. I think the character interaction moments are pretty okay. We have a villain coming in. I'm super happy about that. The look of the book is still really nice and still kind of different from the other books. Even the scenes that are kind of boring, they look fine. So overall, I'm going to give this a 7 out of 10, which is higher than I usually go for exceptional X-Men. How about you?
Yeah, I'm going to go down to a 6. I'm just getting really bored by this.
Understandable.
But it's sort of shocking to me that this was only the sixth issue. It feels like this thing has been going on for like 10 issues. So maybe I'm losing interest like faster than I should.
It did start later than the other flagship titles, and it's not doing the 3 issues every 2 months thing. It's only coming out once a month, so it is coming out more slowly. But yeah, it feels like it's been a while, when really we're only kind of just starting our second arc.
Yeah, Sinister is like my favorite, right? So I mean, I might have to get excited about this book if there's a good portrayal of him.
Yeah, once again, I really hope that it doesn't that Sinister plays out well in this book and it doesn't hurt his character, because he was such a cool part of Krakoa that I want this to enhance his character and not have us go, oh, let's forget that ever happened. I don't want that to be what happens.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens, because with Sinister, with the clones, you can always just say, oh, it's a different version, right? And so any writer can kind of have like their take on him. But I definitely liked the one from Krakoa era.
For sure. Okay, so we took a short break there. Ruben, I know you went off and made some coffee. So tell us all, what kind of coffee did you make? Anything exciting?
Cafe Soda, which is Vietnamese coffee with condensed milk.
Very nice. Very, very, very chic. I have broken into my second thermos of tea. I'm drinking my white tea, my Bai Mu Dan, one of my favorites. So I always have that when we record. So, thus fortified, Ruben, we continue onward. We were pretty positive there in that first set of books. Will we continue to be positive on the rest? Listeners, only one way to find out. So
we save the best for last.
That's what we always do. Right? That's weird science tradition, of course. Storm number 5 is our next book. Storm number 5, Legacy number 16. Still love those low legacy numbers on the cover. It makes me laugh. The issue is titled Oblivion Waits, ... no longer. Technically, this is part of the One World Under Doom event, but is it really? Not so much, but that's what the cover says. It is written by Morewa Ayodele, art by Lucas Werneck, colors by Alex Guimares, and letters by Travis Lanham. So, Ruben, as I said in Slack, it took me 2 tries to read this issue. Not usually a good sign, right? The first time, all the cosmic woo-woo stuff just hurt my head, made me put it down. I waited a day or 2, and on my second attempt at reading, I got through it, and I think I finally got what the issue was trying to do, and I think I kind of liked it. I'm pretty surprised myself. Now, there's not a whole lot of Storm actually in this issue of Storm. Most of it is more like a Jack Kirby or Jonathan Hickman personification of cosmic forces kind of story. And even when Storm is on panel, usually it's not really her. So if I like this issue, I don't know that it necessarily says a whole lot about me liking the book going forward, but I like what happened here. This issue is a rivalry between Oblivion, the embodiment of nothing and emptiness, and Eternity, who is the embodiment of existence of like the entire Marvel universe itself. So Oblivion, he has a grudge against Eternity. Eternity, the universe, keeps expanding, encroaching into Oblivion. Makes sense? Cosmology? I'm right on board there. Oblivion says that he no longer has room to contain his sister Death in himself, and so he wants to foist Death onto Eternity and into the universe. Eternity doesn't want Death in his universe, so he doesn't want that. So I think that's kind of a cool concept. It's almost like religious. It's almost like the Garden of Eden, how death comes into the world. It's a pretty cool idea. So the issue is going to be decided by a trial by combat. Oblivion easily defeats Eternity's champion, and so Death does enter the universe. So the timeline here is, I don't know if this even fits into an actual timeline. It's so cosmic that it's kind of like outside the normal flow of time, but this is apparently why Death exists in the Marvel Universe. And we're told that this is the 12th consecutive time that Oblivion has won a trial by combat against Eternity. So what do you think those first 11 fights were about?
Yeah, it could be.
I have no idea, but it's fun to think about. What other aspects of the world are only here because Oblivion won a fight? Could be anything.
I kind of laugh at the idea of like Oblivion, or any of these sort of, esoteric concepts, right, that exist in these universes being so petty that they like run off to the living tribunal and bitch about some grudge and ask for some intervention.
In mythology, the gods are always petty, right? I'm sure you've read some Greek and Roman myths.
Yeah, I love that stuff growing up. So,
I'm sure like the Norse mythology is like this. All these things, the gods are, have these petty grudges. So I think it's kind of cool. So we jump forward some, number of uncountable eons, and Oblivion he's unhappy again. Never happy, this guy Oblivion. Now he wants his sister Death back. The whole last thing was all about trying to get rid of the lady. Now he wants her back. And Eternity says, hey, sure, I didn't want her in the first place. Go ahead and take her. But Oblivion says that with the universe now even bigger than it used to be, always expanding, I ain't got the room to take my sister back. And what Oblivion wants is to end Eternity, to collapse the universe back to a point, giving him plenty of room for both himself and his sister Death. This is against the rules, though. It would be against the will of the one above all for any of the primordial entities to cease to be. And so the living tribunal steps in and kicks Oblivion's punk ass. Oblivion cries a single manly tear for his missing sister. It's like the fake Italian Indian when he sees Lyring, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And this moves the heart of the one above all, the god above all gods of the entire Marvel Universe, who lives in the House of Ideas, which here is depicted as just a slightly creepy version of a typical suburban house, which it's been drawn like this before. I think it comes from that Avengers No Road Home series from like 2019. I think that might be where this first comes from, this idea of this house looking like this. So this bit of emotion from the one above all, who might be Jack Kirby, I don't know. I think the idea is maybe he's Jack Kirby. But whoever it is, this emotion is felt throughout the Marvel Universe.
It'd be kind of cool to find out that this house is somebody's house. Like if they're like, oh, this is Jack Kirby's house. I'll have to look that up.
Oh, like it's drawn to look like a specific place?
Yeah.
That would be cool. Because I think it's supposed to have a geographical location in New York somewhere. But that be modeled on a specific thing, that would be cool. So emotion is felt on Asgard, on Earth when Spidey is swinging above New York, in deep space where the Phoenix is hanging out, and it changes everything. It even changes the living tribunal's mind, which I don't think happens very often. Tribunal says, okay, now there will be a trial by combat on this motion of oblivion against eternity. The winner will get death and will also get all the room and freedom they could ever want because the loser will be hammered into a speck uninhabitable to even an atom or thought, which seems like it'll be a real bummer for somebody. Once again, Oblivion's going to fight on his own behalf, and once again, Eternity chooses to instead choose a champion to fight on his behalf. And Ruben, who do you think Eternity chooses?
I mean, it's going to be Storm. We know that.
Yeah, it's the title of the book. It's the only reason this is happening here. It's going to be Storm. Now, to me, that was the cool part of the book. Oblivion versus Eternity. It feels like something out of like Hickman's Gods or some of the Jack Kirby's wilder concepts. We do get some other scenes, actually including Storm, or at least Storm's body. Because in these scenes, Storm's body is being possessed by Eternity. I'm going to keep saying Storm, though, because otherwise it gets confusing. We see Storm squeeze that demon spirit thing, Egon, into like a cough drop, and then just swallows him. I was going to make a joke here about Storm swallowing, but that would be gauche, and I'm above that. We see Storm confront Dr. Doom, destroy a Doombot, and then Eternity wants Storm to kill the real Dr. Doom. But we're told by Doom that, quote, Aurora Monroe will not allow you to take the life of an unarmed man. Now, Ruben, is Victor Von Doom in his castle wearing his armor an unarmed man? I don't think so.
Yeah.
But I guess Storm thinks so, and she's able to resist even Eternity. I don't know if she should be able to do that, but she does. Her name's on the cover of the book. So
yeah, I kind of rolled
survives.
My eyes. I was like, seriously? She's not
you know, you can't kill off Dr. Doom.
I also thought the idea of like her eating a demon was a bad idea. It's like, is it always going to be compressed?
There's going to be some heartburn later, right?
Yes.
Like I have too much spicy Indian food. It's fun at the time, but you're going to pay for it.
But I mean, I was kind of okay with it because I was like, okay, this is Eternity doing it, not Storm. But
right, and it looks very cool. Now, we've really loved Lucas Werneck's art throughout the series. And here he gets to do some very, very different kind of artwork. He's been, I don't want to say a pinup artist, but his images of Storm, you know, doing things and looking really good doing it, that has been a big part of what he's been drawing. Where here he's, you know, all this cosmic-y stuff happening, and it still looks amazing. So the dude's got range is what I'm saying. So on the final page, we do see Storm. And I think this is really Storm herself here. She's back home in her fortress of Stormitude. She's lying on the ground, surrounded by hippopotamuses, and she's crying, which is a weird image, but it's been set up. She has hippopotamuses in her sanctuary, so that's where she is. But what do you think the situation is now for Aurora Monroe? Like, she was dead, she's revived, she's going to be working for Eternity, but why is she crying, reacting like this right now? I couldn't really interpret this much.
Yeah, they zoom in on it, too. Make a big point out of it. I just thought this was like depicting some sort of like, you know, being overwhelmed by the idea that you're like tasked with representing the entire universe in some conflict with Oblivion.
Does she know that already? Because we didn't really see her learn that. But I guess because she was being inhabited by Eternity, that she knows it because of that experience, wasn't super clear to me.
She's got really bad heartburn from eating the demon.
That must be it. So, yes, strangely, it looks like this whole storyline might be put on hold for a couple months, because next month, Storm is part of the X-Manhunt crossover. Month after that, Storm number 7 is a celebration of the 50th anniversary of Storm's first appearance in an obscure little one-shot called Giant Size X-Men. So maybe this gets woven into those stories, or maybe we don't really deal with this whole Eternity Oblivion situation until like May, which would be a bummer because that's a long time from now. But that's future problems. I thought this individual issue was fun. Yes, mostly for its non-Storm contents, but it still counts. The fight between Eternity and Oblivion, I loved. It's like, again, that Jonathan Hickman, Jack Kirby stuff that I like. Lucas Werneck working in a different mode still looks really cool. I like that he's drawing the cosmic characters, and I think some of them, especially the Tribunal, when the Tribunal goes all geometric there towards the end, very much the Jonathan Hickman version of some of these, and it's kind of see those. Though it's nice to see those designs going forwards. So yeah, I don't know if I'm going to like the rest of Storm so much, but I like this issue a lot, enough to give it an 8.3 out of 10.
Dang.
I'm surprised as anybody. Again, my first read, I went, ugh, I don't know what's going on here.
You told me I was going to have to talk about it, and I didn't have to talk about any of it, which is great.
Feel free to say whatever you want, please.
Yeah. I'm just going to give it a 7, and normally I really like this cosmic stuff. I think what is holding it back for me is the cosmic storylines just seem kind of disconnected from each other. Like, I think I read this having just, we just finished Gods, and this doesn't seem to be following much of any of that, other than the idea of, like, we've seen Oblivion as, like, the snake creature before. So It's kind of nice to see that characterization. And like you said, the geometric living tribunal was kind of nice. But I need a bit more of, like, I know they're abstract entities and, like, they don't adhere to, like, a linear narrative, but in order for me to care, I kind of need this to, like, follow some sort of path. And when I was talking about, really liking Mystique, because I could see people referencing that Mystique story and, like, bringing elements of that into their future stories. I just don't know how you'd reference any of this mythos. The mythos itself, like, I think is super cool. It is like a cool, like, creation story kind of thing with the Marvel gods, which I kind of like, but it's almost too big to, like, understand.
Yeah. It is hugely cosmic, explaining why death exists, which is hard to get bigger than that.
Yeah. And then the other thing I kind of start eye-rolling is,
mm-hmm.
We always talk about Storm being, like, so amazing, right? And I'm just like, really? So now she's, add to her list of feats, like, able to assert her will over eternities.
Yeah.
Will, and eating demons and whatever else, right?
Those other things I'm okay saying, that's not really Storm, it's Eternity. But that one little bit, you got to give her something to do in her own book.
Yeah.
I am curious, are they actually going to kill off or delete from existence one of Oblivion or Eternity? I can't see that happening.
Yeah.
But that's what is being set up.
Yeah. But the art is so top-notch. I mean, if I were just going to score it on art, I'd probably give it a 9. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And I really like the electric scenes where Storm's, like, fighting Doctor Doom and his Doombots. That looks really cool. So definitely a fun book to look at, but I have a hard time giving it a really high score because it just feels like a fun-ish story, but just nobody will ever be able to reference this in any meaningful way.
Fair enough. We'll have to wait and see on that, but I enjoyed the book. I think I was also, again, surprised how much I liked it after thinking I was going to hate it. So I'm giving maybe a little bit of bonus points for that, but I thought it was pretty darn good. Okay, that was Storm number 5. Moving ever onwards, this time to X Factor number 7 of 10. Legacy number 299, Terms of Use. Written, of course, by Mark Russell, which you were handed any random page out of this book, you'd say, oh yeah, this is Mark Russell. Art by Bob Quinn, colors by Jesus Abertov, letters by Joe Caramagna. And once again, this is technically a One World Under Doom tie-in. X-Factor's sent on a mission to stop Doom from getting his little metallic hands on a powerful MacGuffin, which, again, really feels like this was an existing script that was kind of quickly retrofitted in about 5 minutes to maybe fit the Doctor Doom situation. But still, I think it turns out to be, maybe because there's not as much room for dumb jokes because too much stuff happens, maybe one of the better issues of X-Factor.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I actually, as I read this, I was like, I kind of like this team and what's going on, and if you just had somebody other than Mark Russell writing the story, I probably would have really enjoyed it. Like, the jokes that just aren't funny, that are, like, just try-hard jokes, that's kind of what ruins it for me. But the actual plot is pretty okay. It's basically like your standard Suicide Squad plot, but...
Right. It's a team that doesn't really matter, but is being put forward for PR purposes. Very, what am I thinking of? What was the other book? It was called X Factor, and then it was called something else. Shoot. Anyways, it's a story we've seen before, but it's kind of fun. So, Angel is back as team leader, because...
Wait, are you thinking Hellions? Is that what you're thinking about?
No, it's gonna bug me. It's the one where all the wacky, weird characters come in, which, again, could be any one of a number of books. Jim, feel free to edit in the actual answer and make me look dumb. Go right ahead. I'll leave your space. There you go. So Angel is back as team leader. because Havoc and Frenzy, they got, shit-canned last issue. They don't show up, really, in this issue, and neither does Polaris. The theme does have one brand new member, Zabi, a.k.a. Forget-Me-Not. He had died very poignantly in Cy Spurrier's Legion of X, but then we did see in X-Men Forever that he was among those mutants resurrected in the White Hot Room. Remember that crowd scene where we're kind of zooming in and figure out who everybody is? He was very much there. This is the first time we see him since then, and while it's always good to see Zabi, he's kind of here used as a one-joke kind of character, right? His bosses forget that he's on the team. I was disappointed. I think he should have been drawn into that group scene there where we see the table from above and we see the team members. He should have been sitting there because he's there later. He doesn't walk in. I'm okay with nobody knowing who he is, but we, the readers, should see him there from above. I thought that was a mistake.
I don't know how somebody like Forget-Me-Not joins a team.
That is a hell of a question, isn't it? How do you go through the hiring process? How do you get access to what is surely a high security area like this? How have we now thought about this way more than Mark Russell ever has? But yeah, it doesn't. It could be an interesting story how it happens, but it's just presented because we're going to make a joke later.
Yeah, and this corn dog joke is like just awful.
So old, my God. We're in issue
every time I see
7.
The leader guy with his stupid corn dog, I just want to knock that out of his hand. Just be like, you're ruining your own story with your bad jokes. It's not funny.
I know. I feel like I'm in a glass house here regarding running gags because I do a lot of them, right? I have all my things here. I even played this. I'm leaning into that way too much this episode. I think it's kind of funny, but I don't think Mark Russell's jokes are funny.
You just think Mark Russell like hangs out and he sees some guy eating a corn dog and he starts laughing? Is that like his humor?
It's like Beavis and Butthead. Corn dogs are funny. Yeah, I don't know.
So, I don't know how he came to that conclusion.
I don't know. He might have been at a county fair, and somebody was eating a corn dog in a funny way, and he said, "I can write a book about that. I can hang an entire story on a corn dog joke." So anyway, the team's actual new mission is to go to the island of Genosha, now run by a tech bro. A lot of tech bros this week. It's now called, is it Gigosha, I suppose? They're supposed to blow up an advanced AI there before Doomsday can get, again, his iron-gloved hands on it.
And my reaction to this was, is this really going to get referenced anywhere else? And, this was the graveyard, right? Like the Mutant Massacre graveyard.
This is a dark, serious place. I saw people very much complaining about this. Again, there's people saying different things different places, but I saw lots of people annoyed by this.
I mean, I guess the society falls apart after this issue because they take the AI that runs their civilization, but...
I guess.
Is this skyscraper going to be there the next time we see it? Just abandoned?
This doesn't feel like it's in continuity, right? None of the characters feel like the real version of themselves. This is like universe Mark Russell, whatever it is. I can't imagine this is going to be referenced, but it's presented as tying into an actual event, so theoretically it is. So they're off on this mission, but naturally, no one is really trusting this team of goofballs to do the real job. They're just a diversion. The real mission is going to be carried out by a serious team of Chechen mutants. I think these are all brand new characters. They are way more serious and badass than X-Factor. But on the island, X-Factor actually does a pretty decent job. Angel is able to evade the lasers shot at him by the AI because he's seen the pattern that the AI has used before, which I don't think is how AIs actually work, but Mark Russell is trying to take a swipe at real-world AI issues, so
yeah,
that's why that's
here.
It's
also a reference to the Star Wars trench scene. Like the laser turrets look exactly like the trench turrets.
Fair enough. But yeah, it's an AI joke, and I don't know. Would replacing Mark Russell by AI be all that bad a thing? I'm not saying yes, I'm not saying no. Listeners, you make up your own mind. So, where are we? So, we went through that. Angel did his thing. We get some actual explosions done by Pyro, because he's good at that. He's got fire. That's a useful thing to have. Zyber, he's supposed to do his EMP thing to destroy a power generator, but he kind of wusses out, so Granny Smite steps in and shorts the thing out with her body, which seems probably a whole lot more painful than whatever the EMP thing was going to do to Zyber. Now, Zyber hints that he thinks he only has a limited number of these EMP blasts before, I guess he thinks it's going to kill him. Kind of comes out of nowhere, right? He's being written as the only truly sympathetic character in this book, but Mark Russell is laying it on kind of thick here. Why is he even on this team if the one thing he can do, he's not going to do? Go ahead.
I kind of thought that was a little funny, and then the scene when they're like, you got to save the world, and he's like, hey, I'm just a reminder I'm 17. I did laugh at those. I was like, okay, those were decent jokes, Mark Russell.
Yeah, having him be the only serious character in a silly book, you got to have some, not exactly an audience point of view character, but someone for the others to be compared against, and I'm okay with that. Give him some more of a backstory, like he really needs the money for, I don't know, make up a sick mom or sister or something. So he doesn't want to be on the team, but he kind of has to. That would work. Otherwise, I don't know why he's here. So here we have Mark Russell take another clumsy swipe at Tech Bros, because we learned that the citizens of Gigosha have installed neural implants without really reading the click-through user agreements. And so now the AI can take control to use them as zombies, which, again, feels like what's probably going on in Exceptional X-Men, more or less, but being done better over there. The only way to shut down those implants is for Zyber to actually do his EMP thing, even though we know he doesn't want to. Meanwhile, the Chechen mutants have decided not to destroy the AI they were sent to destroy. Instead, they're going to steal it and sell it to Dr. Doom. They burn up X-Factor's only means of escape, but before they can leave themselves, their means of escape is stolen by a guy they can't remember, Forget-Me-Not, who uses it to pick up the rest of his team, who don't remember him, because that's the joke, and fly X-Factor back home. So, despite my sarcasm and cynicism, a few decent things happened in this issue. Actual action of our team being competent at their job. There was actual betrayal of the Chechens. We had two characters act like actual human beings, Zyber and Zabi, both starting with X, which is just a coincidence. And I didn't actively hate reading this, which, they're not going to print out on the back of the trade paperback, but it's how I feel. I'll give X Factor number 7 a 6 out of 10. Mildly annoying for all the typical reasons how I say I'm allergic to Mark Russell's writing, but maybe because it has to run to a conclusion and actually finish up the plot, he didn't have much room for as many bad jokes as sometimes there are. Do you have any more damning faint praise to give this, Ruben?
I liked it a little more than that. I'll give it a 6.5. It's funny that this is the book I'm more positive than you about.
Big fan. Ruben loves this stuff. I don't have that clip here, but I should play it.
Yeah.
Big Mark Russell fan.
No, there were moments I chuckled at. There was one thing though where I just this is total character assassination, where Angel comes in and he makes a joke about Reyes' boyfriend being dead. And she's like, I thought you had a healing factor, and then he said, I thought you had a boyfriend. I was like, seriously? That's pretty rough, Angel.
Kind of a funny joke, but characterization-wise, it's bad. But once again...
it's like, is he really that kind of an asshole?
This isn't Angel. This is Mark Russell's speaking through Angel.
Yeah.
But that's what it is. That's X Factor. That's what this book is. It's what it's always going to be. And it only has 3 issues left to do it.
Yeah. Well, I like me some Forget-Me-Not, so I'm happy to see him back.
I knew you'd be happy to see him. It is always nice to see him. I'd like to see him used a little more subtly. I think Cy Spurrier did such a great job with him and made us, really care about him dying and not going to be remembered. It's great to see him back, but it's kind of annoying to see him used not nearly as well.
Yeah, well, I did
recently.
like the airplane swipe, right, where the Chechens destroy the X Factor jet, thinking they're going to strand them, and then
that was all right.
And then he's in their jet and he flies off, and they're like, "Who the hell was that?" That again made me laugh.
Again, I would have liked that better if we saw him introduced to them earlier, and if we knew that he wasn't hanging around with the rest of the team. I like things that are set up and then have a payoff. That had the payoff without really any setup. But that's all I have to say about X Factor. Moving onward to, where's my ding sound? There it is. X Force, number 8 of 10. Legacy number 298, The Devil's Lesson. Now, for those of you keeping track at home or not keeping track at home, issue 6 was The Devil is a Liar. Issue 7 was The Devil in Heaven. So, I don't know about you, Ruben, but I think I'm seeing a theme here. This book is written by Jeffrey with a G. Thorne, art by Marcus Toe, colors by Eric Arciniega, letters by Joe Caramagna. So the direct backstory is that Forge and his team have been repeatedly attacked by this new villain, an alchemist lady going by the name of La Diabla. Her motive's not entirely clear, but I think I'm starting to see kind of a Joker versus Batman thing, where she wants to turn Forge into what she thinks is the best possible version of himself. There's a little bit of narration in this issue that talks about her wanting Forge to, quote, rise anew from ashes. I think it's a Nietzsche quote. And she complains that while Forge can build anything, he doesn't really understand how any of it works. So I think she's trying to rebuild Forge in a way. Why? Why that motivation? No idea. At the end of the very last issue, Colossus appeared on board the Blackbird, started smashing stuff. Problematic for a couple reasons. One, like, why is Colossus being such a jerk? And two, we generally think that this new Tank character is probably Colossus in disguise. Now, how many levels of it's obviously him, therefore it isn't him, therefore it really is him? I don't know, but I think he really is Colossus. And my guess last time was that the new evil Colossus would be revealed to be some kind of a phony, and that Tank will eventually be revealed as the actual Colossus. And I'm at least half right? We don't know about Tank yet, but we do see that the new Colossus is just a phony created by La Diabla. And after that, we've got a fight scene. Tank and Colossus smash out through the side of the Blackbird, and for good measure, La Diabla uses magic to toss everybody else out of the plane as well. Betsy and Rachel make it down safely because they're Betsy and Rachel, and Forge makes it down by activating like a mech suit around himself. Okay, I could believe that his special X-Force outfit has a mech suit built in. That passes. So Tank beats up the fake Colossus using some nifty knuckle dusters that emerge from his gloved hands. I thought that was probably the coolest visual in this book. We fill up some more pages by having La Diabla create multiple versions of alchemical earth, wind, water, and fire creatures that look like dime store versions of the Fantastic Four, right? Like, oh, we didn't buy the license, but we're going to sell this to, like, grandmothers who don't know that they're buying their kids a knockoff version. It looks like it'd be a dollar store thing, yeah. So Fantastic our heroes, Five. Yeah, the Splendid Six, something like that. Our heroes win all these fights, naturally, and at the end, our cliffhanger is La Diabla bringing out this scared nerd named Dr. Avery. La Diabla says the word rampage, and Dr. Avery turns into a giant hairy kaiju. Dr. Avery is not a new character. Now, Ruben, I know we want to keep this one short, but I cannot resist just this one time.
It's like an exhaustive deep dive.
Not exhaustive,
it's like
but...
an exhaustive deep dive.
Shut up. There we
like
go. Okay. So, Dr. Howard Avery, his first appearance was all the way back in 1960, Journey into Mystery number 65, published by the Atlas Comics Company, which is the company that would eventually become Marvel. Fantastic Four number 1 would come out a couple years later. Sadly, this issue, again, Journey into Mystery number 65, is not available on Marvel Unlimited, which really bothered me. Although, listeners, you didn't hear it from me, but if you happen to Google something like Journey into Mystery 65 read online, you can probably figure out the rest. Other than that, you go onto eBay and buy me a copy for anywhere from $25 to $500. Send it to me. I'll be happy to read it for real. But this is a classic Stan Lee Jack Kirby story. You have a wimpy scientist who has a girlfriend but feels inadequate because he's always being pushed around by, quote, local toughs. That's a great phrase. Jim would love that phrase, the local toughs. So this guy does what any nerdy 1950s scientist would do, goes into his chem lab, brews up a growth serum to make himself strong, right? It's like the Charles Atlas ads from old comic books, but in an actual comic book story. The serum does make him stronger, but also, turns him into a giant hairy kaiju. The title of that story calls him The Brute That Walks. Not one of Stan and Jack's greatest titles. I mean, don't most brutes walk? Why is that anything special? But it feels like a precursor to the title that Krakoa would get, who was famously The Island That Walks. Well, that makes sense, because, whoa, it's surprising that an island walks. So this is kind of like a first draft of that title. At the end of that first story, Dr. Avery was returned to normal, got his girlfriend back. Nobody knew that he was the brute that walks, and he was never seen again until 1992 in Warlock and the Infinity Watch, of all things. And again in 2015's Uncanny X-Men 33, where both times we saw him on Monster Island, back being the Brute. How he got to Monster Island, how he became the Brute again, how La Diabla got him here off the island. Your guess there is as good as mine. And as far as I can tell, this idea of a trigger word rampage, that seems to be new, unless there's an issue I'm missing. Okay, so that's his backstory. We're not quite done with this issue, because this issue is bookended with individual pages featuring Sage. She had quit the team, although she fought La Diabla in the virtual world and received an actual shoulder injury for her trouble, which is weird. In these 2 pages, she tracks down Forge's untrackable Blackbird, but before she can get there, she's contacted telepathically by someone asking for her help and calling her by her real name, which is Teresa Karasik. Now, collectors, does this first ever reveal of Sage's name mean this issue is going to skyrocket in value? If I own 5 copies of this, can I pay for my kids' tuition next year? I don't know. And Ruben, you think I'm right in presuming that the person telepathically contacting Ms. Karasik is Professor X?
Yes, I think that was what was going on there.
Yeah, probably something leading into the Professor becoming a fugitive of the X-Manhunt crossover. He's kind of the only one who should know her name. I thought maybe at first that this was Forge somehow doing this, but I think it makes more sense for it to be Professor X. So, Ruben, was that big Sage reveal enough for you to give this issue a 10 out of 10?
No, not at all.
I thought you were going to talk longer. I'm trying to drink some tea.
Yeah, no. I don't know.
There you go. Much better.
My passion for this is just very low. Like, I'm not that interested in the story, unfortunately. I wish I was. But it's too many, like, esoteric characters, and I'm just not that excited about La Diabla, I guess.
I think that's the real issue. Because theoretically, she's the one responsible for everything that happened in the first arc. All those, what they called anomalies, fractures, whatever they were. It's supposed to be all her fault. And the reveal should be big, but we don't know who she is. We don't know her motivation. She's kind of a knockoff character of El Diablo, but we don't know their relationship. So she's not carrying enough weight for this to really be anything more than generic magic villain. Action scenes looked fine. Credit here goes to artist Marcus Toe, who doesn't seem to have been given all that much to work with, right? You get the fight between Tank and Colossus. You get the fight between everybody else and generic Fantastic Four knockoffs. So yeah, this issue was, professionally done. If you just wanted to read an issue of an action comic, it gets the job done, but not much more than that. And I'm just not interested in that here. This is supposed to be about big ideas, and the big ideas aren't landing. So I'm going to give this a 5.8 out of 10, and I'm not all that sorry to hear that it's going to end pretty soon.
Yeah, I just give it a 5. I was so bored by this.
Yeah, understandable. It's just kind of unfortunate. We were into this book at the beginning a little bit, but it's really not lived up to what I hoped it would be. Anything else to say about this, or are we ready to move on?
We can move on.
Fair enough. Moving on to our last book of the show, which is NYX number 8 of 10, written by Jackson Lanzig and Colin Kelly. You're the hive mind, Ruben. Art is by Francesco Mortorino, colors by Raul Angulo, letters by Joe Sabino. We'll go through this super, super quickly. We've got a past story, we've got a present story. In the past story, we're back on Krakoa, and we learn that Hellion, Julian Keller, he went through the Crucible to get his hands back, which I think is brand new information. I don't think we knew that before. At least I didn't. His hands had, in continuity, been burned off by Nimrod during the Second Coming event published in 2010. This Crucible event is set during the era when Silver Samurai had taken over from Apocalypse, and it's written like when it was Apocalypse, you really had to fight against them as hard as you could, fight against the dying of the light, and your battle was what made you worthy. Where here it's more of a mercy execution of Keller saying, yeah, I need this, I need you to kill me so I can come back as what I was. In the present, we see Hellion being transported to Greymalkin Prison. He's rescued by Lauren, Kaiden, and Sophie. There's a lot of blah, 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 and then we eventually establish that those 6 people Hellion was supposed to have killed, I think they were like city council members or something, he didn't really kill them. He just kidnapped them, make their families think they were dead, and hid them away somewhere. So still not great. Not as bad as murder maybe, but pretty bad. He tells us that Empath and the other cuckoos are the really bad baddies. Hellion's not Hellman's like he's a mayonnaise. Hellion he's not like a mole or anything. He's still really, really angry at humans. He blames them for the loss of Krakoa, but he's not murder angry, just kidnap angry. Okay. We also get a reminder that Hellion and Laura were an item back in the day, and the implication that this romance and the end of this romance have a lot to do with just how messed up Hellion is now, which is a strange theme to kind of blame Laura for this, but that's how it comes across. So we have 2 more issues left to wrap up both the whole Empath story and the Mojo story, because don't forget, Mojo's still out there. Plus, issue 9 of NYX is that X-Manhunt tie-in. And on the final page of this issue, which is my favorite page of the issue, because it has nothing to do with the rest of the story, we see Charles Xavier imprisoned at Grey Malkin, with tears coming down his face, and he has this, like, grimacing expression. So, I don't know exactly what that's about. Is this Charles Xavier, or do you think this might be Prisoner X? Because we know from the end of Attack on Grey Malkin, those are 2 different people. It sure looks like Charles, though, doesn't it? So I'm hoping that'll all be made clear in X-Manhunt. They're making me interested in X-Manhunt, but Raid on Grey Malkin turned out to be it didn't end very well. So I'm hoping X-Manhunt really pays off those things that I wanted to pay off in a Raid on Grey Malkin. But issue X of NYX itself, 5 out of 10. It looks pretty cool. I enjoy the flashback to Krakoa. I just don't care about any of these relationships, right? Hellion and Laura don't care. Kaiden and Laura don't care. Sophie, does she have her powers back? Yes, when it's convenient. No, when it's not. The twist that the city council members are still alive feels kind of clumsy. Feels like a second-rate version of what Charles did during Fall of the House of X, right? We found out that those people he was supposed to have killed weren't actually people. So yeah, I had some high hopes for this title too when it started, but it just hasn't done it for me, hence 5 out of 10. How about you?
Yeah, I thought the story was a little better than it's been, but it sort of came out of nowhere. I don't know. I guess maybe if I knew these characters better, maybe I'd have more of an opinion of this. Like,
I'm not super conversant with that whole Hellion Laura era.
Yeah, I wasn't even like at all, like, that wasn't on my radar at all. I was like, oh, what would Laura think about Hellion's behavior? And I even forgot that he, like, killed people.
And why did they rescue him? I don't think that was so set up.
Me. Yeah.
I guess Sophie thought that he was being controlled by Empath and wanted to check that, but that was kind of tacked on. Mm-hmm. So what score did you give it?
Just 5.5, but
plain old
it's
5.
Not good. The art's kind of cool. I like the art. That's what it is.
Yeah, again, I've always liked the colors here. I think the colors work better some places than others. Like, the night scenes when there's a reason to have those wacky, cool neon colors, I like it. But in some other scenes, it feels like I don't know why these colors exist, although they look pretty. So maybe that's good enough. And well, Ruben, we have done it. We've set a personal record here. We have finished, and counting the Infinity comic, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 books, 1 1/3 plethoras for those of you using metric. And I think we did an okay job. I'm kind of happy with that. Not to pat myself on the back or not, but I had a good time, and I think that's always a good idea. So next week, thank God we don't have quite so many. What we have to look forward to are Helverine number 3. Akihiro returns to Japan. We've enjoyed that book. We have Sentinels number 5, concluding that miniseries, and really looking forward to that. I hope it ends as well as Mystique does. We have X-Men number 12, concluding that Aliens and Alpha Flight 2-part story. Other books coming out next week that we likely won't talk about because we've done enough talking for a couple weeks. Those other books are Rogue, the Savage Land number 2, which I'm going to read. It was fun enough in issue number 1. Sabretooth, The Dead Don't Talk number 3, which I'll probably catch up to in trade, if ever, to be honest. And next week is also Ultimate X-Men number 12, which I expect I'll be talking about with Jim over on that other show. So, Ruben, has this been the best part of your day so far? Awesome. So, I'm going to leave in a good mood too, so I hope all our listeners also end up in a good mood. But what can they do, Ruben, while they wait for Sentinels number 5 to come out?
I'll read more X-Men comics.
You are all weirdos.
Weird science is the revolution. Weird science is the revolution.